Hallelujah. Hallelujah. How many of you get tempted once in a while? Raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you. How many of you once in a while fall into sin? Raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Some of you, I see you, with your two hands raising my hand. I mean, I will do the same thing. We sin and we fall into temptation. Well, today we're going to talk about how to overcome temptation. Everybody say that, overcome. And you know what? If I gave this talk a few years ago, even just 5 years ago, it would have been a totally different talk. Ask me why. Because as you grow older in the Lord, you realize what weapons work and what weapons don't work. And you know what? I'm much older in the Lord now. I really have experienced a lot in terms of fighting sin and fighting temptation. I know what works and I know what does not work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you first what does not work. And then I'm going to share with you what works. Are you ready? There was this farmer, and he came from his own farm. He wanted to cut a tree. He had lots of trees. He wanted to plant more crops. And so he goes to the city, and he goes to his hardware store, and he says, "Excuse me, can you sell me a saw? I really need a big saw. I have to cut lots of trees." And the hardware guy said, "I'm going to give you the top of the line chainsaw." Chainsaw? The farmer said, "Yep, this is the top of the line saw. It can cut 6 trees in 1 hour." Wow, 6 trees in 1 hour. And he said, "I'll buy it." And so the guy from the hardware sells it to him, and the farmer very happily goes back to the farm. The next day, 2 days later, he goes back to the hardware, very angry, and he says, "I don't like your saw. I don't like it. You told me 6 trees in 1 hour. I spent 24 hours cutting 1 tree." And so the man says, the salesman in the hardware says, "Give it to me, give it to me. There's got to be something wrong. Man, 24 hours, 1 tree. It doesn't work, And so the guy in the hardware, he turns the engine on. And the farmer said, "What's that noise?" You can just imagine a chainsaw, just... Now that's what you and I do. When we try to overcome sin and when we try to overcome temptation, when all we have to do is turn the engine. And I'm going to teach you how to turn the engine. Are you ready? Are you sure you're ready? Because I won't preach until you realize that this talk will reveal to you how you can overcome temptation in your life. Everybody say that. I want to overcome. Everybody say that. I will overcome. Everybody say this. I'm God's champion. I'm going to share with you now what does not work. Are you ready? Believe me, I've tried it. I've sinned against God so many times. I've fallen into temptation. I've tried all these things. It does not work. The first thing that does not work, these are 4 common remedies to overcome temptation. The first one is hate. Hate. When you fall into sin, "I hate you." And the more you sin, you say, "I hate you, I hate you, I hate you." Maybe, just maybe, you will stop sinning when you hate yourself. The second remedy is shame. Shame. You're such a terrible person. When you fall into sin. Does this sound familiar to you? When you sin, when you fall into temptation. "Oh my gosh, you're so terrible. You're a terrible, terrible, terrible person. Shame on you." And that's the second remedy. And people think that it's going to work. No, it won't. The third remedy for overcoming temptation is fear. If you will not stop sinning, you will go to hell. God will get angry at you and throw you to hell. You know what? A lot of people think that fear will work. Will it work? If you're a parent, raise your hand. Mommy, daddies, raise your hand. Good. Has fear ever worked to your children long term? No, it doesn't. It works short term, but it never works long term. And the fourth is hopelessness. Sometimes we are so hopeless. We've fallen into sin again and again and again. After that, we say to ourselves, "Just give up. It's hopeless. Give up. Nothing will work. You'll continue to sin for the rest of your life." These are the 4 things that will never work. Tell someone beside you, they won't work. What won't work? Number 1, hate. Number 2, shame. Number 3, fear. Number 4, hopelessness. These things don't work. You know what, brothers and sisters? I've tried them. Believe me, this is a personal testimony. I've tried all those things. They don't work. to overcome temptation, to overcome sin. They will not work. You know where they come from? Ask me where. Where did we learn hate, shame, fear, and hopelessness? Do you know where we learned them? Ask me where. Parents, raise your hand again. You know where now. We learned it from our parents. I'm not kidding. We learned it from our grandparents. We learned it from our aunts. And we learned it from our uncles. We learned it from our teachers. We learned it from religious leaders. We learned it from all of them because we were raised in that way. When you think back when you were a kid, when you made a mistake, and when you failed, and when you disobeyed, and when you sinned, guess what they will do? What will they do? I'll give you examples. Here's one. Hey, have you heard this line before? Lintik na peste kang bata ka, alis dyan, ayoko makita pagmumukha mo. Have you heard that before? I'll say it in English for the sake of our international audience. You're a pest, get out, I don't want to see your face ever again. You know, parents, when their patience is gone, they say these things. And they said it to us when we were kids. And guess what? When you grew up, you told yourself, if that's how they responded to me, that's how I should respond to myself when I fail. When I sin, I'm going to respond to myself in the same way. I'm going to hate myself. I'm going to say, I don't want to see your face again. Here's number two. Shame. Have you heard this line before? Mahiya ka sa sarili mo. Raise your hand if you heard that line before. Okay, thank you. Ang pangit talaga ng pag-uugali mo. Hindi kita pinalaki ng ganyan. Wala akong anak katulad mo. Have you heard that line before? Have you heard it from your parents? Yeah, let's be honest here. And you know what? You were a small child. You were fragile. You were tender. And you heard it from mom. You heard it from dad. You heard it from lolo. You heard it from lola. By the way, international audience, sorry. You should be ashamed of yourself. Your attitude sucks. I don't have a son or daughter like you. Brothers and sisters, you heard it. You were a fragile little girl or a tender little boy. You heard it from mom. You heard it from dad. You grew up. So next time you failed, next time you caught yourself in sin, what will you do? You tell yourself, mahiya ka.
Thank you so much for your monthly tithes and love offering to Kerygma family, without which this broadcast won't be possible. We know that God will reward you abundantly for your generosity. God bless you.